Morena, and good morning to everyone. Welcome to our August full council meeting. Welcome to the staff. We don't have any visitors here yet, but perhaps we could start with a karakia. Thanks, Fiona.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa paunamu te awa. Hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai tātou I a tātou katoa hui e tai ki e. May peace be widespread, may the river be like greenstone and a pathway for us all on this day. Let us show respect for each other and for one another and bind us all together. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Can we confirm that Channy is online on Zoom? He has indicated he wishes to be here by Zoom.
Through the chair at this point in time, he is not.
Okay, he'll come online, so then allows me to ask for any apologies. We have one from...
Through the chair, we have an apology from Councillor Robin Graham.
And Jenny Iwako for his lateness. He's at
lateness, is it?
Yeah, late.
Okay. You'd like to move then, Councillor Fiona, that those apologies be sustained. Yep. Signifying. Thank you very much. I'll put it then all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Declarations of interest. Of any? See, Councillor
Toter Street.
Toter Street. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay.
And later and confidential.
And confidential.
Yep.
Yeah, fine. Okay, they're noted. Notification of any additional items. Are there the CEO? Are you aware? Yeah. Confirmation of the order of meeting. And can I just bring to your attention that with the permission of Councillor Hinch, to bring forward the item number 9, the notice of motion, bring that forward from the deputation. Just I think a bit tidier to do that, get that out of the way if we're comfortable with that, and go to the deputation, and then the discussion after that. Everyone comfortable with it?
What's item 9?
Oh, just what I'm suggesting is that the notice of motion be brought forward before the deputation, so that it actually fits. So we do that notice of motion in preparation for the deputation, and then discussion by the council after that. Okay, public forum. We do have in the waiting room, we have Mr. Barry Murphy by Zoom, and he wishes to have his 5 minutes in the public forum session to talk about Teitei Drive. So he's online.
I'll move that we go into public forum.
Okay, sorry, yes,
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? I'll be glad to say aye. Aye. Carried. And we'll go into
yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Can I just indicate that this is a public forum, Barry, and that we, under the standing orders, have allowed you 5 minutes to have your say on this particular subject, and then there's an opportunity for the councillors to ask questions. We do not have an item on the agenda of this as such today, but nevertheless, it's your opportunity from the public point of view just to explain. And of course, as I said to you yesterday, there's an opportunity with the public meeting next week to ask questions that are forward, and we'll be able to elaborate along. The floor is yours, and welcome. Might pay to put your camera on if you've got.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. I'll only take 2 minutes, and here we go. The only reason I'm speaking today is because this is the very first council meeting where Teitei Drive has been an agenda item. I was going to do a long-winded talk on Teitei Drive, but last night decided to simplify things. The reason for that is because in 3 different shops I walked into yesterday, I overheard people discussing the housing project, one of them being Weston at the post shop. So at least I know there's public awareness on this topic. Weston did call me after I mentioned seeing him. We spoke for about 35 minutes, and the only thing I'll mention from that call is that he didn't believe me when I said a large portion of Ohakune locals and ratepayers were against this project. I can assure you that there are a lot of people locally that are against this, many of them employers and very well respected. I can also tell you that there's a lot of distrust in council at the moment, which we are unsure if it can be restored. I'm not going to go through the holes or the lack of communication or the lack of consultation, as I document all of that on saveohakune.com. The last thing I'll mention is how well council communicates small items, such as Christie Park, the bench seats, rubbish bins, etc., before making a decision. But council did not consult on Teitei Drive at all. The funding from CIP was approved and contracted in March this year, yet no information has been released openly or under the Official Information Act. I ask on behalf of over 1,300 petition signatures, which include hundreds of locals and ratepayers, that council release information being asked and request council be transparent. I also ask, when can we expect a decision from Tonkin and Taylor on whether the consent or proceed is notified or non-notified? Thank you for your time.
Okay, I assume
Is he gone?
signed off, so.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that was his video.
Oh, I see. We're just,
Right, there we go.
there may be an opportunity for councillors to ask questions. But I need to get that opportunity to do this. Are you got a question?
Yeah.
Yes, Liz.
Kia ora, Barry. My name is Viv Boita, a councillor on the council. I just have a couple of questions. So you live locally?
I don't live locally. I'm a dual ratepayer. I live in Tauranga. And yeah, so we've got about 150 neighbours here in the Snowmass subdivision that are obviously all concerned, but then a number of people around Ohakune. Yeah.
And consultation, what do you specifically mean with regards to consultation when you're not actually local?
As you'll see from all the Facebook videos of council meetings and stuff, you can see I comment all the time. So I do take an interest in Rupehu and all the meetings and the agenda items. I have just as much right as everyone else in the community, being a ratepayer, to be consulted on just as locals are. Locals don't know what is going on either. So it's not just me not living here that doesn't know. So yeah. There's been no consultation about the land sale to Kainga Ora. There's, you know, there are consultation processes in the Local Government Act. You have a policy of significance that has reached the highest possible test you have on your system. So yeah, it just seems that this was very secretive, and I did bring this up to Clive in mid-June. So that's where we are.
Were you aware that this process actually happened a couple of years ago?
Yes, and I've documented that. There was 21 submissions made in 2020, and 11 of those 20 said we would like council to speed up the process. But that question was very open-ended. It didn't say, do you approve council to sell land with any consultation? I watched the 2020-2021 long-term plan, and there was discussion there when Don was a mayor, and he said, I will not allow a ghetto to be built here while I'm a mayor. He also said that further consultation will be had. Sorry, Clive said further consultation would be had in the future, but there has been no consultation on this matter.
My last question before I hand it over, thank you, Barry, is the reference to allowing a ghetto. I'm not quite clear what
that's a council. You can watch the council videos. I'm happy to share those Zoom calls. It was Mayor Don and Clive having a meeting with council and Ohakune at Ohakune Chambers, and that reference was made at that point. So I'm just repeating what was said at a council meeting.
So he said there's not going to be a ghetto built there. So is the issue the type of buildings? What specifically is the issue? Is it consultation, or is it the type of buildings that are actually going to be there?
It's a number of things. We all agree that additional housing is required, but there are over 60 properties on Trademere right now which have double glazing, heating, all the rest, under 500 grand on Trademere right now. This project at Teitei Drive is a waste of taxpayer money. There's not enough builders in the area to do this. there's only 12 people on the waiting list with MSD for social housing. The lots are intensified at 450 square meters and 300 square meters. That goes against your council policy and planning document, RE 2.2.2. If you have a read of that, you're also going against those standards of keeping with what the direct neighbours are and consultation with those neighbours.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lynn Neeson.
Hello.
You spoke in your 2 or 3 minutes about waiting for a Tonkin and Taylor decision on whether it's notifiable or not. Can you give me some background about how you asked for that, what the process is that you understand, and what the and how the outcome will be broadcasted or communicated?
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking. When will that be notified? Tonkin and Taylor accepted the resource consent to be looked at on 25th of July, I believe it was. I think they have 20 working days to give a recommendation. I'm not entirely sure on that. That's what I would like to know. Has council received that advice from Tonkin and Taylor, or is it still yet to be received? And how will the public be notified about that?
Do you understand why Tonkin and Taylor were engaged for that?
Yes, because it would be a conflict of interest to council to approve their own consent, or a consent they partner with Kainga Ora. Yes.
Any other questions? Please.
G'day, Barry from Rabbit. Have you been down to Moore Street to see our social housing down there?
I have, yes.
What do you think of it?
It's great to have additional houses. I think the budget that was originally assigned of 1.4 million, which ended up costing 2.1 million, is a lot of money for 6 units, 5 1-bedroom, 1 2-bedroom, I understand. So that's 350,000 per unit when you own the land and you own there was infrastructure in place. I think putting 44 homes, if they looked like that, all together in that one spot on Teitei, and up to 157 of them would be a big eyesore. Yeah, that's what I think.
What do you mean a big eyesore?
Just having a whole bunch of units looking exactly the same, intensified on small sections next to, Snowmass subdivision has high covenants in place. We bought our land with the understanding that we would retain value, because if someone doesn't mow their lawn, you can give them a 10-day notice to fix it, or they find $500 a day if they don't follow the covenant. So my properties will have 7 additional neighbours with this proposed subdivision, and if some of those neighbours do not, look after their property, that's going to be an issue for me and my land value. But I mean, that's not the whole thing. The whole thing here is people could be housed in a week or two if Kainga Ora actually wanted to house people. This development will only be land ready to be built on in 2025 if everything goes to plan. There's been mention of subterranean rocks that may be an issue. That's what they had problems with at Snowmass. And so you're looking at 2026 before you start housing people, when you could just go buy a house right now, 2 or 3 bedroom from $250,000. Who's going to buy an affordable house? It would have to be discounted so much. Like, these houses are going to cost at least $600,000 to build on Teitei Drive. That means it's going to be a huge discount that taxpayers, not ratepayers, but taxpayers, still your and my money, are going to be having to fork out for that, when you can get more for less by just buying an existing property and scattering it around. You look internationally at putting social housing in one area and one place. It doesn't give people the opportunity to be included or known as living in a social house. You're not giving them the the anonymous, they're not anonymous. Everyone knows they live there. Rather spread people out and let them be included in the community.
So, there's that meeting tomorrow night, eh?
Not tomorrow anymore. It's 31st.
Okay, so will you be coming down to it, or will your 1,200 signatures be turning up?
I'm here till the 7th of September, and I'll be sending an email out today advising everyone that can to come down. Obviously, it's a lot of people that live. Your Ohakune ratepayers make up over 50% of the town, so it's not easy for everyone to take time off work and come here. So I have requested a Zoom link like Kainga Ora did, where it was an open public forum where they could join, add their name, and talk at this meeting. But it's my advice from that you want people to email and request a private link, which makes the process a lot more difficult. But if you could let me know by the end of today how you wish to do that, I can email people and ask them all to email for a link if you prefer.
So you're in Ohakune at the moment?
Yes, I am.
I'll be back there this afternoon if that's any help.
Can I just have one follow-up question? Hi, Barry, can I just have one follow-up question, please? It's Vivian.
Yeah, sure.
Would there be any difference for you if it was not Kainga Ora and a different developer? Is that the issue, or I'm still trying to grapple with what the actual problem is? Is it if a private developer came in, not Kainga Ora, and said that we're going to build these social houses, would that be any different? Because a private developer doesn't have to consult like Kainga Ora is consulting.
No, it would be the same because it's council-owned land, which is a ratepayer asset, which is being sold without any permission. So I posed to Weston yesterday, if the 2020 consultation had said the wording, do you want us to increase tourism and job opportunities? And then council went and partnered with Sky City, let's say, and put a casino there. The tables would be turned here because a lot of locals would have said, we weren't consulted. We do not believe a casino should have been put there, but it would have increased tourism and it would have increased job opportunity. So look at it from our side that it's about the consultation and the land sale, which is a ratepayer asset.
Land sale.
Okay, I think we've had sufficient number.
So just a consultation and land sale. Is it?
Yep, and actually getting the public's opinion on what they want it to look like. You ask what Christie Park wants to be why are we doing 300 square meter little boxes of land when there's a huge field there that could be turned into a nice area? Like it's there's also been a conflict of interest raised with a senior Kainga Ora developer engineer. You can read that on my website. It's been in the Dominion Post, where a reserve of 2,666 square meters was placed in front of his property, and he was working on this project and helping design, and he's the resource consent whiz apparently. So it's all been very secretive and dodgy, if you ask me, and that's how the public is perceiving it.
Okay, we'll leave it on that note.
Can I just have the last one? Would there be an issue if the housing project was started down at the other end of the park and not where it is?
So I did ask this of Clive. He refused to give any comment.
No, I'm just asking you. Would you? I'm asking you for your opinion.
To be honest, it still needs to be consulted with the community. So that could have been an option, but we were told it's not going to happen. So we were told council were doing this no matter what.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks very much, Barry. We'll have it.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Sorry.
Thank you.
There will be an opportunity, of course, members. Thanks very much. We'll talk next week, no doubt. But yes, there will be opportunity, of course, for our members to actually, we did indicate earlier that we'll front up to a meeting next week. And so with that, so like we move out of the forum. Second by agreement. All in favour, say aye. Aye, carried. Now we then go on to the confirmation of minutes of the council meeting, item number 7.
I'd like to point out a change. It's at the bottom of page 3, I believe, page 9 in our minutes, page 3 of the public business. And it says the mayor advised council it would be adopting option B. I thought that it was the mayor advised council he would be proposing option B. Does anyone else recall that?
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. If that change is made, then I'd like to move that we accept the minutes. And I'd also like to thank Tasha for recording such a difficult and emotionally fraught meeting so accurately and appropriately.
And I'll second that.
Okay, with that alteration, or someone like to move?
No, I've got an alteration. And just a spelling mistake. Ngāti Waiwai is W-A-E, W-A-E.
Apologies for that.
Okay, is there any other alterations for correctness? Someone like to move then that those minutes?
Well, we did. Moved and
And I
seconded.
second.
We moved, okay, seconded. Any further discussion? If not, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Aye, carried. So that brings us
Through
to,
the chair, may I just clarify, have we moved just the 19th of June or have we done the 19th and the 21st
The
of
19th
June?
and the
both.
21st, sorry.
Please, thank you. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so then comes to the, we flick now to, as indicated, welcome to our deputation. You'll be opportunity welcoming, and there'll be an opportunity. We just had a slight alteration to the agenda, and that will go for the notice of motion first, and then we'll go on to the deputation. So,
Can you tell us what page that is, please?
page 114.
14 it is.
114.
114. So the process could well be that we have the mover and seconder, move and second, so it brings it up for discussion, and then you're welcome to then introduce the subject.
Well, I'll move it.
Yeah. So who moves? Okay, let's moving second by Janelle Inch. So Lynn, would you like to start the debate, please, the discussion?
No, I'd like to reserve my.
Reserve and seconder.
Oh, sure. Something cute. I am really proud to be bringing this to council with the help of, I'm just so flustered about it. I'm just so excited about this. I've never moved to revoke a very old motion before, a resolution. It is an honour to be doing this, and I think that as a council to be looking at something that was appropriate at the time and realising that it is no longer appropriate, and to be making moves to change to a modern time. It's very, very cool to be a part of. And the thing I wrote, which is probably better to listen to, is embracing the practice of reverting place names to their original Māori names is not only a symbolic act of cultural recognition, but also a tangible effort to restore the dignity and authenticity of these locations. By doing so, we acknowledge the profound connection of Indigenous communities to the land and their rich history. This process not only respects the linguistic heritage of the Māori people, but also helps raise awareness about the colonial history that led to the renaming of these places. And its way of inviting everyone to reflect on the importance of acknowledging and rectifying past injustices while fostering a more inclusive and harmonious society that values the narratives of all its inhabitants. And I'm done.
Did you write that? Just well done, Councillor Hinch. And just to add to that, there's a lot of scaremongering or miscommunication within our communities about what this is actually about, and what this is actually about, and what the council are moving towards is to supporting this motion to go through to the geographic board, and then they will come out and consult with everyone. So just so that it's not a council process, but it's rectifying a council process that shouldn't have happened in the first place. So it's just to put that into context. I know that there'll be a lot of people listening online. Well, I hope there are, that will understand why we're doing this revoking the way that we're doing it. It's in order to put, make things level again, make it katoa and have a clear space so that when the deputation comes, which will be next, we're all on the same footing and moving forward on that.
And so in support of this motion and with consideration of some of the rhetoric and conversations that have been around this issue, I would like to say that the people who in 1957 moved the motion, moved it for their own reasons, and we must respect those now. And we, as a council today, are not going to go around and revoke all of past decisions. But this one in particular, just as Councillor Hinch said, we've moved on, we've moved Hinch?
Hinch, you said Hinch.
I know,
Hinch.
It rhymes with winch. Sorry. We've moved forward, we're embracing what we mean about working for our people and taking our people with us. And so we need to set this up in support of it going to the geographic board, and that is why I support this motion.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
I through you, Mr. Mayor. I support it. I've always supported it. So I just want to make that noted, please.
There doesn't seem to be anyone speaking against it, so I don't know if there's any point in having a right to reply, but is any other further comment? I think it's going to be unanimous. So can I then put it to the vote? All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Three, carry. That's unanimous.
Can I please have that recorded as unanimous?
It will be.
That will be recorded as unanimous.
Yes,
Thank you,
that's
yay,
fine.
fabulous.
That's fine. Okay, so that brings us now to item 8, which be the deputation. That's how our visitors have arrived. And so welcome. Would you like to perhaps come up, if we can get another chair, that might allow the whole party to come forward.
So much information. She might as well. Do you want me to write that? Thank you. So that you
It should be minuted.
It should be minuted.
No, you're wrong.
This is my piece.
Perhaps,
Done.
yes. Welcome to our full council meeting. This is the official item on our agenda, and so it's appropriate that we have you at the table to discuss your item, or the item. And so, welcome Aidan, Kura and Liz, and the floor is yours to just reinforce the item. The members have had quite a lengthy description of all the things that you sent through, so we understand for good reason and want to know more. So the floor is yours, and can I just say that in conclusion of your presentation, there'll be an opportunity for our members to ask questions, and then when we're satisfied that we've done the work in preparation for our decision, which will follow. So yeah, we'll make a decision today on what the proposal is. So just give you the heads up, decision could all be made or will be made today because it's on the agenda. So the floor is yours, and thank you for coming.
Tira, ngami ke o koutou, te kaunere o takiwa, tēnā koutou. Kei te haramaya ana ia mātou ki te tautoko ngā e hapai ngā kōrero ko te ingoa wai marino. Anō reira, tēnei te mihi ki o koutou katoa. Thanks for the opportunity to actually come and visit the council and build that relationship as we move into the future. Where to start? What's in a name? I guess it starts back when our parents named each and every one of us in the room. For whatever reason, the name was given for some historical context or even to represent something in our lives. And I want to start there, I believe, because why Marino? Can I ask, have you read the table document?
Oh, yeah.
Just about finished and I haven't got much to say. Is there any that hasn't read it? Oh, great. It's getting less and less here. Look, I'm here to support the document. There are many reasons why. It's about, I recall back in when John Keys was the Prime Minister, and he sent around a delegation of consultants to visit Ruapehu, and the impotence of that was to make this the #1 destination in the North Island. And that was a while ago now. It became obvious out of the stats there was a missing component in Aotearoa in terms of attracting the tourism and making this the #1 spot, surpassing the Rotorua, if you like. It was identified then that cultural component was lacking. And given the connection to the World Heritage, to World Heritage Park, now that Tonga Ora sits under, there were boxes that hadn't been quite ticked. So this gave us an opportunity to sort of write National Park. Now, if you live in National Park and you give your address, sometimes your mail ends up down the South Island, the bottom of the National Park. So there's all these mitigating factors that support, I guess, going back to the old name. And so I was sort of struggling to say, what can I add to the document? Because I want to thank our research team for that. It was well done. It was comprehensive. It was a document I liked because it had pictures. It speaks 1,000 words. So we're here to support that move. I was asked, I believe a question was asked, what was it put through the settlement? Settlement is its own beast. There are processes that belong to different segments of the government. This was one of them. We couldn't actually put it through a settlement process. It had to come to the councillors, given the limits of the history of it all. So just to answer all those concerns, people were asking why it wasn't put through the settlement. Yeah, I think if there's any questions asked about it, I've got a team here that was very comprehensive in the research. Again, I'm appreciative of the document that was tabled to the council. And thank you for allowing us to speak today. I think I've said enough.
Thank you very much for that, Aidan. And we do have a question from Lynn.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on signing the settlement. That is a great relief, I imagine, and a really big step forward. And I recognise that this is one of those boxes that needs to be ticked, perhaps, is also right and feels sensible. I don't really have a question. I was going to actually move it, but the information that was contained in this document, can you explain to me, you can, regarding the how it's not actually ever finalised the name? What's the process around that name at National Park? It must be pretty special or unusual for because there's something around that it's not set up. Gazetted is the word I was looking for. Yeah, can you?
There are two types of names, I guess, or qualifications of names, to my knowledge, within the database, and one is a gazetted and one is simply approved, which we have currently with National Park. If you look at the Wanganui example, where Wanganui without an H was approved, however, Wanganui with an H has now been gazetted. And when names were changed, there seemed to be a slightly interesting process or lack of process around what was happening. So name just got changed, obviously in the case of Waimarino. It just got changed and it's just been on the record as approved. It was an approved change and that was it. So ideally, if the Geographic Board move forward in principle and then they favour following the consultation to change, or sorry, revert back to Waimarino, there is a hope that that will then actually be gazetted as well and be officially rubber stamped rather than simply approved.
Okay.
And so we've got Fiona.
Mihi nui ki a koutou katoa, nā tēnei tahi mihi o tō tautoko I te hāpori o te iwi I roto I te rohe a rua pihu, tēnā koutou. So I just have a question about next steps and what that means for the public in your planning.
What does it mean for the public? It means the name change for a start. I guess there's a lot of businesses that have attached themselves to National Park. And look, it should be exciting, I think, as we move forward in recognition of historical things. And like I said earlier, it's all in the name. Waimarino and its breaking down of what it means is the calm waters. And as we know, our mountain supplies most of the North Island with their water, even up to the Manukau ends, I might add, given the diversion. So it is the feeding ground. It is a place that's special for the whole North Island in terms of, I remember my koro saying to me, don't go up there and play. And we asked why. It was because that's where all our fresh water comes from. And then just in that simple philosophy, it was about acknowledging a kawa and the tikanga of purity in terms of the area. What that means for Joe Public is that they can now climb on board with something that's really supportive of the area. National Park is a national park, and as you know, our country is made up of many national parks at the moment. It separates us from that mix and gives it an identity. And for Joe Public, it's about celebrating that identity, if you wish.
In terms of the Geographic Board, so you go from here and then present to them? And then that goes out to, what is that process?
Okay, so an application has been made to the board. The board are considering our application on the 3rd of October. From there, if they in principle think it's a kaupapa they'd like to move forward, that would then go out to public consultation. As of last week, they indicated that would start in October. It will be around a 3-month public consultation and it will be New Zealand wide. Obviously, submissions are taken for and against. They then consider all the submissions. They look at simply at the quality of objections as well, and the quality of the supporters. So simply saying, I come from Auckland and I think it's a dumb idea, will not be given much weight in the final consideration. The board will then reconvene. They will then make their determination. That will then go to I believe it's the Minister of Lands. He will then endorse their recommendation, and should that occur, then effectively from, I suppose, like we saw in 1926, as of this date, moving forward, there is an opportunity to hopefully revert back to the old name. From on the ground perspective, and it's great to see Jo here today. I'm sure if you had a question, you could ask her, but it's something that there could be quite positive and planned campaigning in and around informing the wider tourism industry, both nationally and internationally, and celebrating the reversion of the name as a very positive thing rather than possibly in the negative. So I hope that answers your question.
No, it really does. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my, I was going to have the same question.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Councillor Neeson, congratulations on your settlement and the long road you took to get there. Well done, research team. Fantastic document. I was going to ask similar questions. I do have a question about that I have been asked about the cost to businesses and the cost to reverting and changing a name that has stuck for so long. How will people alleviate those concerns? Or is that not you? Is that someone else? Or
It's, everything is national park. Anything, if one is attached to that, it gives it flavour. I mean, I think we're privileged to live in a rich historical landscape, if you like, colonial and cultural. So it's about really opportunities for businesses to actually get on board and identify. We're not the national park in the South Island, but we're part of the national park in the North Island, and it's called Waimaru. So that's our we Māori helping. It's about us supporting the community in some way, and we can only do that by just our own rich culture that's a part of the landscape. I mean, this is just opening the doors to what's really available for businesses, if you like.
well done.
Janelle.
Hi, again, congratulations and thank you for this incredibly detailed and well-researched document. It is a thing of beauty, especially with all those pictures you so I know that you have unanimous support from the local community board. Are there any other fabulous people that have come along to show their support and written letters to our organisation supporting this change?
Yes, as you've seen in the document, two requests in the 50s and the 60s also went back to were under review by the Geographic Places Board. At that time, there was support in their requests from the Federated Mountain Clubs of New Zealand and Tonkin Taylor Conservation Board, amongst others. And they, again, like their predecessors, have given us letters of support that went through on the 8th to the Geographic Places Board with our application. Also included with that, a stunning woman who's sitting over in the corner dropped everything and visit the Rupehu also sent us a letter of support was included in that application. So thank you, Jo.
Do you have a question? Do I see your hand?
Yep. Great bit of reading, even though it took forever. But hey, so just a quick question. Kiwi Rail's already changed the name. I just saw a photo. It hasn't been photoshopped or anything like that.
No.
Is it there?
Ironically, very ironically, the day after the submission, Kiwi Rail as you'll see in the back end of the document, erected a whole bunch of new signs that no one knew was going up, which now call the railway station Waimarino, and then under it says National Park. So we are currently under request from Geographic Board to get a letter of support from Kiwi Rail. We're taking it as intimated support based on the new signage.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? Questions? I just got one, just a clarification, I guess, and I just take it that you've seen the agenda that's been presented to the members today and the terminology. Is that correct? Are you happy with the language that's in there? It talks about Waimarino Village, for example. Are you comfortable with it? Or is that the intention? Because we've got to shortly decide. Sorry. Yeah, very good. Yes, please.
The reason potentially it's in the motion in that way is actually the railway station and the village itself are two separate entities within the database for LINs. And they've actually asked for two requests, one pertaining to the village and one pertaining specifically to the railway station as changes rather than a blanket change across the two.
Okay. So your submission to the geographic board is on one, is that sort of consistent with?
Yeah, so we've been asked to make two, one for the village itself,
Yes.
and one for the railway station, quite interestingly.
Right.
So there wasn't if the village changed, apparently there was no automatic change to the railway station per se. So that's why it's separated
For
into those two.
clarity, sorry to interrupt, for clarity, so will it be referred to as the Waimarino Village
No, just
and the Waimarino Railway
the
Station?
railway station, I assume would be Waimarino. But just like Te Ratahi town or whatever it is, it would just be Waimarino. Whatever comes after that is whatever the determination is. Yeah,
Oh, I see. So
it's the village of Waimarino that has been changed.
just need to be quite clear that in our motion, that's all.
Shall we
It's in
remove
inverted
village?
commas.
Whoever moves needs to be aware of that tweaking, if you like. See that.
In which case, could I move that we receive the report and recommend to the New Zealand Geographic Board that it approves in principle to revert the name of National Park Village and National Park Station to the original ingoa of Waimarino, and can we remove village? And Waimarino Railway Station, and commences the place name consultation.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Do you want railway station in there too?
It has to, it applies to the railway station.
Just before I accept that, I just want to be quite comfortable that you get sufficient time to address their council and you're comfortable, because we will be getting into, as it's been indicated, get into the meat of this and that we will resolve it. Are you comfortable with all the questions and any last points you want to make before we do go into that formal process? Oh, Courtney was another one, sorry, my apologies. Just before we went.
Kei te tuku me ia te kia koutou, kia tātou. Nā te mea ko te hainati o tō tātou pepa. I mahi ana koutou tērā tā mō tātou, e nei rata me i. Nei rata me i arua kia koutou. Ka tū tātou ki runga I tō tātou maunga arua peu. Ka te titero atu rātou ki te tehi o te rai, ara, ko rai te I. Taku kaipō. Te wā I wānau mai ai, aku mātua I au. I wānau mai, ngā mātua tūpuna I a tātou, te nuinga o tātou. Ka mārama te titiro, ki te awe rere nei. Ki roto I ngā waituku kiri o pui mā kurumā. Ara, o te Waimarino tēnā. E nui ana tēnā whenua, e tūhono tātou, ki taua wā ki taua whenua. Engari, Kei te tautoko au i ngā kōrero. Kei te tautoko au i tēnei kaupapa. Nei rā te mei, ka puta mā koutou, mō tātou, tēnei kaupapa ki mui i te aro, ki mui i Aotearoa nui tonu. So I'd just like to explain what I've said. My congratulations, because they've done this on behalf of all of us, just like Ngāti Rangi did on behalf of all of us, because we're one whānau. And I've said we've stand, probably not physically, but spiritually on the top of our maunga. And we look down, and rai tihi, rai, this is your rai. And your tihi are what we refer to as the peaks of the mountains, or this is our tihi. So we all have a rai tihi, because it's through your rai that you retain your knowledge. And it sits in your rorohiko, in your brain. And so as we see and look at the te tihi o te rai, and Raiti, and I just wanted to acknowledge that that's my birthplace. So I'm very proud of Raiti, very, very proud of being born there. And as we see and look clearly to the world that passes us by, sometimes we miss things. Sometimes things upset us. But at the end of the day, as we look and look carefully at the waters that flow past, and those are the Waitukukiri, those are those places, the waters, the spiritual force flow that our ancestors would always go to. They would always go there. And it's a bit like, if we turn to a Christianity, it's a bit like a baptism. You know, that's why the water is so important. And because we've most of us, our bodies contain water. So that's why we always acknowledge. And I marama te tiro ki te aoerere nei, and that we see the Waimarino. Waimarino are the calm waters that we cross as we came up here this morning. So those of us from the south, we cross the Waimarino stream, and we always see that lovely sparkle in that water there, just that Waikune. But that whole land block, I just wanted to say how lovely it is to hear this kōrero, that because there's going to be a few more of these, the reverting of names back to its original name. So nei rā te mei. So you've opened the doorway for us, you've put this to us, and I just acknowledge the work and all the kōrero about our mātua tūpuna in here, and nei rā te mei atu kia koutou. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Right, well, there's no other question.
Well, just a quick question, maybe silly, but you know how originally it was, the reason the name of the change was because of the mail. So what happens to the mail now? If someone writes National Park on there and the name's changed, how will, just a silly question, will the post recognise it again? Are they not going to send it off somewhere else now?
So if I can add to that, Ray.
Yeah.
If you live in National Park, Waimarino, you didn't add village to it, it went down South Island. So that was the postal service and their dynamics in terms of their systems. So there'll be a bit of a change in terms of Waimarino. Village was just allowed the post to go to the mail to go to its correct address. So if you did write and just said National Park, it will end up somewhere in someone's national park.
Oh, okay.
I think there will be a transition period, and we all have postcodes now.
Oh, yeah, okay,
And
yeah.
according to New Zealand Post, no one sends anything in the mail anyway.
Yeah. No, it's just on the off chance that people did still send letters. You know.
I would think that, you know, there will be a transition period.
Yeah.
There literally has to be. It's not that.
Of course, yeah.
come February, hopefully next year, you know, suddenly Clive's going to have to send the workers down there and pull out all the signs. I think there's certainly going to be a transition period. And, you know, is that around renewals, or I don't know, can we cheekily put a request through to the Crown for a little bit of assistance to help us fix, you know, move forward some of these kaupapa in and around that. So.
Negotiations done.
Okay, I'm just seeing a councillor Iwiko on the Zoom. So just one final request, I guess. Channy, would you like to say anything at all on this matter? How do you join the meeting? Just finding the way.
Aro mai kia koutou, ko tama Ngāti Tiriti. Apologies for being late, pardon. Happy to carry on, Mia.
Thank you very much. Is there any parting comments, things that you want to say before we get into the discussion and the resolution?
Mihi mana, tautu anō. Ki ta hāpai, e ki tēnei kaupapa. Ringoa wai mare. Hui no ki a koe, wanaunga, uti. I mihi ana, te hua kōrero. O ngā rohoi, o reira, tēnei te mihi. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you once again, and congratulations, as others have said, and it's a privilege to be there on the day and sitting next to the Paramount Chief of Government. That certainly was a privilege to be there, so thank you and congratulations on that. We'll look forward to working with you in the future on this matter and others. Thank you. You're welcome to stay for the resolution, and this is happening right now actually, so we'll be everyone's eager to get on with it. So, Councillor. You're welcome to stay at the table if you wish, just while we're there. The members will be discussing it right now. So
it's a good view from you.
Yeah. Let's go back to the agenda on page 35 as the item, and we had an indication. I think Janelle, did you wish to?
Yeah, I said,
that?
yeah, just removing village from the second recommendation.
Yeah,
and then also can I add that I would like to move 3 agrees to the minute.
The whole 3? Yeah. So, Tony? Second? Yeah. So, and do you like to speak now as well, or it's as you said before?
Yeah, pretty much as I said before. It was quite interesting to note that this is the only non-Māori place name on the maps that I've been looking at lately. I mean, there might be little tiny something landing or whatever, but when you look at the big map, it's the only non-Māori place name. So,
Can I just say through you?
I just got to offer first, okay, I've got to offer first, the second. I just want to talk about that issue.
Oh, no, well, I just want to add to what she's saying, that it's the only non-Māori place name, because our people named those places because they saw, like Teitei, Ohakune, Waimarino, they saw what it actually meant to them, so that it's more than just, oh, well, let's name it National Park or let's name it Wellington, but, you know, sort of thing. It's because of the things that happened there. And that's why it's so important for us that they return to the original name.
So I just want to congratulate council as well for being so open-minded, and this is a good step towards being able to engage better with mana whenua, with Wai Māori. So mihi nui kia koutou.
Okay, we'll open up for discussion.
I was just curious, does that mean that finally there'll be a name for National Park on the maps? Because on my iPhone, it never shows, it shows you just you can see Irawa and you can see Rarimu, and you'll maybe also find it on the AA touring maps, that the name of...
I think because they were waiting for it to go back.
Well, if you have a look, see, there's no name there. If you pull up, I don't know what it's like on a Samsung, but definitely an iPhone. Hey,
It's the same.
Name of town of no name.
Councillor Lisa.
I noticed in the discussion document that we're still talking about, so say 2.2 engagement, we're still talking about changing it to Waimarino Village and Waimarino Railway Station. I think that could get a little bit confusing for the people who know, for the residents and who know that it's National Park Village at the moment. I guess it's about communication, but I also think that the people of National Park, I was quite jealous. They've got the best little sign entering their village, entering the village, Little Rocks, and it looks really gorgeous, and it's National Park. There will be also, when you turn off at 8 Mile Junction, you know, to get to National Park, turn left, doesn't even say Tōmaranui, I don't think. And that's something that past councillors have been on the case about. So I think there will be quite a cost, and I'm hoping that it will be over time. But we have to acknowledge that the park, and there's a motel called the Park, I believe. I guess it still can be called the park because it's in a park, but there will be costs to our community. And there's also people that have residents that have always lived and only known it as National Park. I completely agree that it should be changed, and it's the only one of that that I know that isn't of hasn't got a Maori name. And I just wonder about the confusion with the Waimarino Village and the Waimarino Railway Station. And I don't understand how it's you're going to drop the village name.
Well, that's why I raised it, because it's important that you get the right definition of what you're actually talking about. And from what I can understand from the application is that it intends to be just Waimarino, and the village doesn't feature with that, as I understand. So we've got to be consistent with what that application is going to be. And so the point is that's why it's been altered. So it's all about the motion, and it's quite clear what you're voting on now is actually just Waimarino. All the other moving around the report is just a recommendation. So I don't think we're in danger of conflicting ourselves and getting tied up on, you know, what's said in the report. That's just the recommendation. What is important here is the definite wording that's been altered, as I understand it. We'll read it out before we put it. It's quite clear to me that it's Waimarino. That's been agreed to by the applicants. So
I just wanted to talk about people accepting change, which some really struggle with. But let's think about when Mount Egmont became Taranaki. Let's think about when Hinewehe Mohi sang the national anthem in Te Reo and got booed out of the station, out of the stadium. And now we all stand up and sing them both very proudly. Let's think about Aotearoa and New Zealand. And just on your point about village, Kākahi is known as Kākahi, not Kākahi Village. Ohura is known as Ohura. There's just I think, a real shift, or not shift, non-shift of people just wanting things to stay the same. But things can't, for things to progress, they can't stay the same. And we all learn, because we are pretty adaptable, to make change. And I think it's a really good thing that we do support this.
thank you. Just to add that to those points too, is that the community has an opportunity further down the track as early as October, I think you said, Liz, and that if anyone has other views or has an alternative view, then they can express that to the board, and of course they'll take that into consideration. But I think it's fair to say that your decision today and the community board certainly go a long way to assist the decision-making process, and that's what we've been asked to do here today. So,
Let's put it.
so if everyone's happy and have ample time and opportunity to speak, if not, then I'll put it. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary. It too is unanimous, so thanks and congratulations and take it.
Please be noted as unanimous.
Sure. So that brings us back to the agenda items. We're up to page.
So that's one of the 99 list.
I'm not researching the next one, that's okay, months.
Oh, and that is the long-term plan, and we're going to have speaking today once again. Melissa, welcome. Melissa.
Is it 118?
Welcome, the floor is yours.
Not as exciting as the previous previous report, but
This is pretty exciting.
so just speaking to this report, can I take the report as being read? And essentially this same report was tabled with the community board, the community boards, and it's just providing a formal update about the long-term plan process. So I'm sure you're all aware of where we're at in the process currently, and we've just got a high-level summary of the internal process that will follow around budgeting, etc., and just milestones that are to come before we adopt it in June of next year. So happy to take any questions.
Okay.
I did just a little question. 5.8 consultation workshop with the community boards. I thought that was happening next month, not October.
No, it is happening in October. So
Because that's the same time as the community board meetings.
yes.
So we're going to have the off month as the workshop month, and then the meeting.
So I believe that the timetable's been created so that we could have the September engagement month completed before we go to the community boards with what the community told us. So that was the reason behind it.
So will it be at the same time as the community board meeting?
No, we had a staff talking about that yesterday, so it won't be at the same time.
Okay.
Through the chair, some of the boards want it to be separated. They've got too much to do at.
Yeah, no, that's why I thought it was going to be in September.
It's their
And then,
choice.
yeah, just wanted to check because I saw October now. We had it the meeting September. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Any questions? So what's the process now then? He was highlighting anything that you need to add to the report in terms of where we head to in the future.
So basically we'll have our pre-engagement during the month of September, and then we'll come back to you with a report that summarises what the community are telling us, which will hopefully provide a direction that we can give to you in regards to community priorities around projects, etc.
Will we get a chance to have a look at the information that goes out in those community re-engagement discussions?
So we've got a survey online at the moment, so I can send you a link to the survey. It's just a high level asking the community for it. We've talked about the top of the funnel sort of thing, so it's just asking the community for some high level indications of where they would like council to spend money and what that means in terms of community wellbeing and what they see as going well in the community at the moment and what they see as being some challenges, etc. So it's just high level themes, but I can send that to you, and we're in the process of working out from last week's rating workshop the additional things that we need to communicate with the public around that. So that will happen during September as well, but we're busy working on that at the moment.
Thank you. I was just thinking that I can recall getting sort of sideswiped by Horizons, a similar consultation system with Horizons, when it all came, all the pre-stuff came in on emails, and I didn't engage because I was not interested. And then I realised that the information that was happening at the community pre-engagement sort of had already been decided. And yeah, it's like asking, now you're talking about high level and that's great, but it's asking people without sort of any idea what they want. And it's hard to bring it down into what we can afford and what we can.
So I can assure you that the communications that have been going out is asking that very thing. I think what's the phrase? I don't think Paul's in the room, but it's needs versus wants. So he's been quite conscious of having that at the forefront so that people need to keep in mind that we are in a economically challenging time. So people should be aware of that and hopefully keep that in mind when they provide us with feedback, etc. So
that's great. And I also recall that we put some fairly big adverts in our local paper, which is an important way to get the message out there if people aren't using the internet. And the other question was, will the pre-engagement, there be opportunities for the councillors to attend them, and will they come into our, as an invite into our agenda so that we remember when they're on and can come to them?
they will. We finalised the dates, etc. yesterday, so it's in the process of happening.
Perfect, thank you.
I assume that the process is a hearing and all the councillors are going to be on the panel.
Next year, correct, in terms of formal consultation, but at this stage it's just seeking pre-engagement, so there won't be a hearing involved at this point. That will happen next year.
It's just to confirm for me that it's not wise for an elected member to put a submission in that case.
Clive, you can go.
Through the chair, everyone on this table has to keep an open mind right till the final decision to adopt the long-term plan in January is present. So of course you've got views, of course you can talk in favour or against things when things are favourable, but the key thing is you have to keep your mind open to new information. So if you do too strong a submission through the submission process, you could be seen as having a bias. So it's your choice, but I wouldn't recommend that you put in formal submissions in the submissions process. You leave that for discussions around the table, when then you're free to express your views. But right as part of the formal process, it could be perceived as having a determined view of something.
It's right in right now.
Are you happy?
The survey,
Yes.
where's it? Is it in the paper? Because a lot of people aren't online or don't have internet, or
Yeah,
it's not in-
appreciate that.
we're just having a look and
So it is online, but during the month of September, we'll have printouts so that people can complete a physical copy.
okay.
So
It's just really important, just as Councillor Neeson has pointed out, is that people understand that the survey will inform what the pre-engagement and the consultation process will look like. No, they will just assume that the consultation process will be what you're coming to consult about, not that there's been a survey to inform that.
yeah, so Paul might be able to.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. We've been very clear about that and what we've put out, that it's just people identifying at a very high level what they think our priorities should be. And we'll just try to keep the language very simple. And in survey, we've been promoting it in the local paper. It's on the radio. Will be on the radio. It's also available as hard copies. People can pick up surveys from any of their council offices. So, and in terms of elected member role, we'll be looking to you all to help us get that out there. So to help give it a good push in your communities.
Where is it on? Is it on Facebook, Paul?
Yeah, it's been on Facebook. It's been on regularly on Facebook. You would have seen there's a big sort of needs versus wants, graphic. And that's on Facebook. It's been in the paper, and that's just ongoing.
Can we get it into the bulletin? Because I haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
it's been in the bulletin,
Was
and
full-
it will be regularly in the bulletin. It's already been a couple of times in the bulletin.
There was a full back page spread in
Yeah,
the.
there's been half pages and banners, all sorts of things.
It's just a lot of people won't know what you mean when talking about long-term plan needs and wants specifically.
Also, how we've explained it is that
They will inform what we're consulting about.
We can
Just nice.
we haven't said about. Well, I've tried to stay away from that language. We've talked about helping us to focus our narrow our priorities down and focus on the issues that are important to people. That's important to them.
Yeah, but that doesn't say anything to me. If you said this survey will inform what we will consult about, I'd have a look at it, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep it simple, then you're going to get more people engaged. If it's all complicated, because there's a lot of surveys on there. There's Christie Park, there's Teitei Drive, there's this.
And we have been aware of that. I mean, that whole language around consultation, I mean, I could tweak that, but I think that it's, we're still identifying what the consultation issues are. So this is more about identifying what are the key priorities, if you think about, as Melissa said, the top of the funnel that we're narrowing down to decide what.
I understand that. And could we have a video? I have asked several times. I mean, you're pretty. Why don't you put myself? Someone will watch it. What I'm saying is, instead of reading it, someone's going to click and have a video telling them, come along, listen to this.
Yeah, well, if elected members want to do that, I think that would be a good role for them. Happy to make a video with you if you want.
If we'd want to keep it nice and simple and get that engagement.
Would you be happy to front a video, Viv?
I'm sure Lynn will. There's a lot of stuff. All I'm saying is there's a lot of stuff in there. There's Christie Park, there's Teitei Drive, there's a long-term plan, there's annual plan, there's waste management, there's.
That's part of the problem. Yep. So
just do a snippet and it's like, fill out this survey. This will inform what we're going to come. We're talking about needs and wants. This is what we're talking about.
TikTok coming on.
Actually, there you go. Fiona's going to do a TikTok.
Actually, what the simple language is, what you come up with is what we're going to start charging you for in the long-term plan. Your rates are going to pay for this. What do you want? It's not about consultation. It's about what it looks like and who's going to pay and what you're going to pay for.
Perfect.
So,
get a video of that.
I'll wear something of Janelle's.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so should we make progress on this? Someone like to move that be received, which is the only one, number one.
Yep.
Is there a second, please? Courtney Wilson. Any discussion? Any further discussion? None, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Aye. Contrary, carried. So that concludes that one there. 122, which is the speed management plan. Thank you, Melissa. Is that all?
She's here for this one too.
You're doing excellent.
How come you get the short straw?
I'm doing the next few, so I'm afraid you're stuck with me for a while.
You should make Vinnie front this.
So we're 122.
You front it with me.
Is the speed restriction, is it? Yes. Management plan, all is yours.
So just speaking to the report on page 122 regarding the draft interim speed management plan. So we're seeking approval of going out to the public to consult on this matter. So again, we've been through this before in workshops, etc. This is a government mandated process. We're now required as a road controlling authority to reduce the speeds around the schools within our district. So the process has been going on for many months now. We've been relying on a contractor professional in the area, GHD, to assist us through the process, through the technical aspects, etc. So we're now at the point of being able to take this out to the community for them to provide us with their feedback. We are reducing the speeds around every school in our district. And that also affects some marae because they're in close proximity to the schools.
I'd like to move.
Okay.
I'll second.
Seconded.
However, I get to talk later, don't I?
Yeah, so councillor Hinch is seconded, so all's open.
Yeah, I totally support the campaign to Road to Zero and the interim speed management plan and for it to go out to consult the public. However, on Topol Road, there's Wharauru Marae. Wharauru Marae is not far from Te Kura Kaupapa or Taumaranui. Te Kura Kaupapa has a 30-kilometre restriction imposed. And I feel that Wharauru Marae should as well, if not all of Topol Road. Topol Road has a chronic speeding issue and has for a long, long time. There is only one pedestrian crossing and it's further past the school. And yeah, I feel that Topol Road should have a complete blanket 30-kilometre restriction, and there are two marae on state highways. I don't know how you can manage this, but one is Manawatu Marae, which is on State Highway 41, just past the turn-off of Pukeho Road and the State Highway. I was at a hui in the weekend, and coming out of Manawatu Marae is very, very dangerous when traffic's coming, especially from Turangi, coming down and it's going 100 kilometres. It's very, very dangerous. It's just an accident waiting to happen. That whakapuni will probably be open sometime next year. And once the marae becomes fully operational, that is definitely going to be a major problem. The other one is on State Highway 4 and it's Whānau Maria Marae, north of Taumaranui, and that has also no restrictions and they're going 100 kilometres, and it's just a miracle that nothing has happened at those two marae. Kia ora.
Councillor Hinch.
I guess I should declare a conflict of interest because my sister got hit by a car outside her school. She is fine. But yeah, having speed limits around schools is obvious. It's going out for consultation. So good job.
Sorry, I know that this is just about the schools, but will there be further consultation? No, I know. When is, shall I finish?
Okay.
Thank you. Because that's what I've been asked. We know that this is, so to be clear, we're online, we're live. This is a government mandated, again, process that we need to complete. The speed limits around the rest of the district, that will come next. That's not part of this. Next year. Okay, I just want to be clear because a lot of people are confusing. Or you haven't talked to me. Well, you're not out of school.
So next year is part 2. So this is part 1, the interim speed management plan, and part 2 will be the full speed management plan. So that's when we can look at speed limits around marae, etc. And next year.
Great, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Rabbit.
Councillor Lewis.
I do want to say, I bet you all know what I think about this. I note on page 123, oh shit, I've lost it. No, sorry. 123, 40% of 4.2, 40%, Road to Zero has set a target of 40% of all schools to be covered by a speed limit by June 2024. 40%, and we're up there fast. We're not fast followers, we're leaders of the pack. I think I understand where Councillor Chase is coming from with roads like Tolpo Road, but 30 kilometres an hour for the length of that road is going to miff a few people off. And also Golf Road to match the fit around that. I think we're asking for trouble here. But what I really am more concerned about is the restrictions around some of the rural schools that are coming 80 Ks because it's coming down to 40 Ks. And I think that, and you describe it somewhere here, but I can't find it at the moment, where it's a sign that says, you know, during these hours, slow it down to this. But you can't do that on the rural schools. And that's a stupid government recommendation. That's just dumb, because that's what should happen. Instead, you're asking traffic all the time to slow down 80 Ks a kilometre out or whatever, so that it can get to 40 Ks outside the school, where the school's on one side of the road, the kids get on and off the buses on that side of the road, everybody pulls onto that side of the road. No one ever crosses the road. And so, and there's nothing on the other side anyway. And it's the only bit of tar seal on a 20-kilometre metal road. And so you're going to expect people to come off the metal, hit the tar seal, and then have to slow down to the 40 K, 80 Ks and then 40 Ks. I accept that this is going to go out for consultation, although I'm interested in what the community have got to say about it. But fundamentally, the thing should be a sign during school hours or school times of kids getting on and off the road, buses, and that should be the limits, not the, no, it doesn't have to be flashing. People read a sign that says, you know, slow down if it's between this time. But because of a government recommendation or rule that says you can't do that outside of a rural school, you're just limiting and restricting and frustrating a whole lot of travellers. So I think this is, I'm annoyed that we're fast leaders. Where there's also one part here that I read that you've got, you can't change the speed limit outside Mananui School or Tomoranui School because it's gone to Wakakatahi about those rules, and they've been waiting 2 years to get back to you. So you've effectively not being able to reduce the speed limit out beside state highway schools, yet you're limiting the speed limit out at Kairiki or Ongarui. It doesn't make sense. It's not fair. It's not a sensible law that doesn't allow just simple signs to say, you know, go slow at this time during when kids are getting on and off the school bus or arriving at school or not. And so I'm just looking forward to some, hopefully, real pushback from some of the community, because this is just impacting unnecessarily.
Just to touch on what you said, Lynn. So why doesn't the government pay? Because roughly, if you add up all those costs, you know, just what in there, it's like $650,000 without the, you know, funding assistance rates. So if we're going to pay 25% of that, that's, you know, whatever.
250 grand this is costing us.
Yeah. So why doesn't the government pay for the whole lot? You know?
It's their role anyway. That's why I said government mandated.
Yeah. So why can't they, you know, it's just seems that we should have better things to spend our money on. Nothing against schools and excellence and stuff like that, but, you know, shouldn't that be part of the education portfolio? You know, the education board to, you know, to put up all these signs and, or to pay for them anyway, like that. But I just thought, you know, it's, we're going to be, and that's just before we do phase 2. And just with phase 2, just a quick question. If we lowered the speed through Ohakune to what I would think would be a good speed, it would only add 1 minute to the trip going through town. So, you know, and the fact that, you know, that's slowing it down, coming into town past the Carrot Park, maybe past the new entrance to the housing development, you know, through town at a lower speed.
170.
Yeah, like, no, you know, no, but no, you just, you know, yeah. It just seems that we're going to be up for a lot of money. I know we need to drop the speed down, and yeah, a lot of people don't read the signs. We know that already. They don't slow down during roadworks. Hey, they don't slow down past buses. They can't even drive slow through town half the time. So, you know, to think that they're going to...
It is possible, to interrupt there, it is possible that if there's a new government, for example, they may review the whole thing and actually ditch that idea of that phase 2. It's a possibility, I would suggest. So we may not be affected by that part, but this one definitely, and with allocating 240,000.
250.
250,000. Great paying money, but absolutely right about why should we be doing, particularly in those of state highways.
The 1% we say.
Yeah, it just seems like trying to pass the buck all the time on little things, you know, a couple of 100,000 there to them and a couple of 100,000 to them, you know, all of a sudden saving millions of dollars where, you know.
And they're not playing their game by giving us the answers around their state highways. And in this at 4.2, it says you could have a permanent or variable speed limit, and it's the variable speed limit that should be allowed. Of up to 60 kilometres can apply, but you've indicated here that it's going to be 40 between and those more rural schools designated category 2. Yeah, I think we're just asking for pushback here, hopefully, and yeah, I don't like it. That's all I've got to say about that.
No one wants it.
Do we get a move in second? Any other comments? Not.
Just I'll say it again, it's a government mandated process that we're stuck with. So if you're online, don't take it out on our staff. It's something we have to do.
Get onto our rates.
It's only set a target of 40% of all schools to be covered by June 2024. So why are we doing it now?
Does anyone want to answer it?
Yeah, I can answer. So the idea is that we go out for consultation on the full plan, so we're not doubling up later on. We decided to try and use all the resources we have to do the full plan now, even though the implementation is going to be in 2 different phases. So we're going to run 40% of the schools within the current financial year, and then the rest, the 60% remaining, will be done later on.
All right, there's no further discussion on that.
Yeah, could I just add, in the consultation document, we've put in some frequently asked questions, and also on the website that sort of touches on a lot of those points that you've raised around why we included all schools in this plan. And the other points, because a lot of it's legislated in terms of the speed reductions, there's actually limited ways in which people can influence the final outcome. It's more around the size of the school zone, because the fact that it's got to drop to 30 k's or whatever, you know, that's just the law now. So yeah, we are restricted in what and how people can influence the final outcome. But we've tried hard to explain all of that in the document.
There's one here at the Mananui school, and that's classic because, yeah, I'm annoyed that Mokatahi have been consulting since December 2022, and we've got to do this now, and they haven't come up with an answer, so we can't sort of change it on the state highway. But we're dropping it to 30 kilometres an hour. The average speed is only 42 at the moment, 42 kilometres an hour, and it's going to cost $54,000.
Yeah, but yeah, Lynn, but the fact that it's going to 30, that's what the legislation says. So it's working with, you know, with those things are locked in by government. So we just need, you know, we were trying to work around that. The variable speed limit was more problematic in that putting in those solutions is evidently a lot more expensive in terms of the signage than, you know, permanent fixes.
I don't think we should do the rural schools then until the variable speed signs are allowed. That'll show we're only doing the urban ones.
My understanding was that part of the reason why they didn't recommend the variable speed signs rurally is because it was hard to get service, you know, like not internet, but service to run those. Maybe Vinny can speak to that. So that was my understanding around why variable speed limits aren't included rurally.
To the chair, that's a good observation from Elisa, and it is accurate. The variable speed limits, the signage especially, is a lot more costly than fixed speed limits. So that's the reason behind
it. Oh, well, move a seconder. There's no further discussion on this issue. This report be received. I'll put it all in favor, say aye. Carried, thank you. The next one for this again is it vaping?
Yes.
Smoke free at 178.
It's a tricky one.
And if I can just introduce to the council, Kirton, who's a policy analyst, strategy and policy advisor, who most of you have met before, but Kirton's first time presenting to council this morning.
Oh, hello, you anyway, aren't you? The library. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you for the introduction, Melissa, and thank you for the opportunity to present this report. Asking you to adopt the statement of proposal for the smoke-free and vape-free policy. I will submit the report as read and take any questions if you have any.
Does this take into consideration shops, like retail shops at all, or near schools, things that have been in the media recently? Does that sort of need to be?
Do you mean the vaping,
yeah,
in particular, the vaping? So no, this is the smoke-free policy for public spaces, which is including our footpaths, our parks, our sports grounds. It's not addressing the issue of the vape, the premises selling vapes at this point. So it's just declaring our area is a smoke-free and vape-free review district in our public spaces.
So,
oh, Janelle.
Sorry, I was, no, go then.
what I'm trying to understand, I'm not a smoker and I think nobody should vape either, so it's easy for me, but it's going to create, when we're looking, say, at Tomaranui, you're asking not to smoke on the footpath where the shops are, but also not to smoke on the other side while you're sitting down having a lunch or at the, you know, it's the whole area, isn't it?
It is. It's so. Are you referring to the dining areas outside that extend onto the footpath,
and also on the other side of the road?
Oh, the picnic tables. Yes. Yeah. Anything in a shared public space.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard to
enforce.
Well, you can't enforce it because, like they said in here, you can't do it until you do a bylaw.
It's more of an educational policy, right? Is that the right language? It's not actually compliant.
Through the chair, yes, it's about representing and encouraging our district to smoke free and vape free. That there wouldn't be an expectation anyone would be enforcing this. It would be give you the opportunity to say this is a vape free, smoke free area for businesses to provide signage and the council to provide signage too.
The thing with that is it's a bit like the not walking the dogs down the main street, and it makes the public be the meanies because you're expecting us to say, no, you can't do that. No one does say that. And so the outcome is, you know, is there an outcome? I don't know. I'd be interested to understand how it would affect somebody like perhaps somebody who has a cafe with Main Street
Well, finish the question.
Well, now you can read my mind, you know what I'm saying? You've got the, you know, will you have to enforce it or do you have to affect your customers?
So we already have a smoke-free sign out and vaping outside on the sidewalk. And we do encourage people not to smoke there. That's our own, and we've lost customers because of it, but we've gained customers because of it too, because non-smokers don't want to smoke passively. However, out the back, they can smoke. We don't have a sign out the back.
And will that area be affected by this policy?
No, this is the areas that it's
Okay, so we've got Vivian, Janelle and Vivian on the list.
Oh, you're not ready? Okay. I was going to ask the same question, just about private property that, you know, that's your business, but that's the council part, and the car park, you might have that bit, but
yes.
It's just so that people are struggling to get employees anyway. That won't affect what they've currently got in place anyway. This is more to do with only council-owned premises.
Oh, outside, yeah, that is included. Outside council-owned premises will be smoke-free and vape-free.
No, I mean outside of privately owned business, this will only affect the council part.
The footpath, yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I agree with it. I agree with it, and vaping has become an alternative, but they're still saying it's unsafe. I'd rather smell raspberry than a cigarette, but I'm not sure how they're going to, people have gone off smoking to go into vaping because it's supposed to be a healthier alternative, but we're including that in here.
Oh, good.
The recommendation is that vaping is included and as part of the policy as well, in the same respect as smoking.
So if they park the car outside and they sit in the car and vape, that's all good.
I believe that's legal at the moment to vape in law, but in smoking in cars isn't. But this policy would be treating smoking and vaping as the same.
And so this is part of, again, a government mandated initiative.
It's a part of a smoke-free Aotearoa 2025 in support of that. It's not mandated, but we are, it was brought to the attention when we suggested this policy earlier, is that we are one of the only districts that currently does not have a smoke-free vaping policy. And yeah, I think there's only two.
Yeah.
And but there are we do have decisions to make on how strong our policy is, and that is what we're looking to take out to the community to get their feedback on that now, and of the recommendations, what they feel about those, to make sure we have that. We've started some pre-engagement, and we've talked to some people around the community already just to get a feel on that, but so far we haven't talked to businesses. We're just
And one of the things we're asking the community is if they think we should include vaping in the policy. So that's something that we'll get direct feedback from the community about, that we'll come back when we table the deliberation.
Thank you.
We've got Brenda and Janelle. Brenda.
Oh, well, then, I'd like to move 1 and 2. Surprise. I think this is great. I think that when this is sad, we're not leading the charge on this one, like that we're one of the few councils that haven't done this. I think that not only is it a great thing to do for people, it's also our responsibility. Section 23 of the Health Act makes it our duty to improve, promote and protect public health within its district. And it, yeah, like you say, some people might not want to go to a cafe, but if they're all in the same boat, then that's all good. And also you do have more people going that don't want to be secondhand smoking. For example, do you guys remember when they decided to kick people out of bar smoking? All of us need to close down, it's going to be this massive disaster. But actually it just made it a lot nicer for everybody working there and everybody visiting there that didn't smoke.
Are you young enough to remember that, old enough to remember?
I was, yeah, I had just turned 18. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it's better for the environment. You don't have cigarette butts going into all of our drains and our waterways. And I think it's an excellent policy. Well done. Thank you, guys.
And I'd like to second that.
Second that, I've got Brenda waiting on the.
I just really kind of like want to look at the costs involved that's actually going to impose council with signages and all that kind of stuff. Because that's, you know, we've just gone from one other, you know, speed zone, other implication of costs. Then we've got another one coming up. Do we have an idea of what money is going to be involved in this?
There will be some cost in regards to signage, especially with the events being included, so that we would be providing signage, I believe, as part of that. And so, but we are hoping that that would be covered just as business as usual within the current signage.
So we've been advised that the cost of putting the signage out would be able to be included with an existing budget, so it wouldn't be an additional cost for council. It would be a business as usual cost. So I don't have the costings in front of me at the moment, but that has been looked at as part of all of this.
2.2.
Because I agree too with this, the smoking side of it, you know, and the butts. There's not very many, but then we've got a couple of people that like to go and pick up all the butts anyway on the street because they can't give up smoking. So you've got those sort of things. And then you've got the ones that want to do the vaping because they can't afford to smoke. So, yeah, no, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. I'm hoping that people will come on board and give some submissions.
Mover and a seconder. Any other comments or any?
Well done. Sorry. Oh, no, you go. No, you go.
Okay, well, I just want to say through you, Mr. Chair, that we've just talked about this pristine environment that we live in this district, Review District Council, and I support it.
I just wanted to say that I want council staff to work actively hard to minimise the harm of inhaling poisons, whether they be a cigarette or a vape, it's poison. I don't want my mokopuna to suffer from those poisons. I don't want your mokopuna or anyone's mokopuna to, and this is a future thinking movement forward. I do question though, or wonder how policies, why councils make policies that they can't enforce, because we just seem to make these rules so that people break them, and then it just adds to, it's a bit like the parking up the main street that I always go on about, and then that's just adds workload to picking up the phone, ringing staff, moaning about it, then they have to do, you know, it's just more work. So yeah, I think we need to do more about supporting staff to when we put policies in place, and then we just burden them with more work. That's actually, I don't know, what effect does it actually have? Because there's still the same car parked up there, Clive, every day. Shut up.
Okay, is there any other comment at all?
Just a quick one. I'm not being, up with the player, but are they going to ban vapes eventually or what?
Yes.
Through the chair, I don't know about that. Obviously, it's become an issue in the media. It's very relevant at the moment, the discussions around that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's a lot of discussion going on around.
Ask National, they introduced it.
Sorry.
Nothing.
Okay, no, I'm not waiting for them. No, I was just curious because, they're going to try and ban cigarettes and people under a certain age aren't allowed to buy them and stuff like that. But yeah, they can just go into a vape shop and, and crack into it, eh? It just seems to be, you can see that big waft of smoke coming out of cars and down the street. That's why I thought, like you said before, how can we, have a policy that we can't do anything about it when people, what are we going to do? Go up to someone on the footpath? Sorry, you can't, you're not allowed to be doing that. We'll just be, we'll just go, oh, you're just a,
I think it's better to have something than nothing.
Yes.
If through the chair, I might be able to put a little bit of context, and we had similar discussions because we went to the Kahuiapo and talked to some of the principals of schools to hear firsthand the effects of vaping, etc. You know, 7 and 8 year olds vaping, etc. The purpose of this is, so as part of that corridor, we were talking about having the schools not allowing smoking and vaping on their school grounds. And so at the time when that was first brought in, that would have been hard for parents to stomach, in the sense of going down to watch their kids play sports, etc. You know, everyone would be smoking back in the day, but that's seen a change in attitude over the years, and the hope is that having a policy like this will see a similar change in attitude. So although it's not a policy that the staff are going to be actively out there policing, basically the hope is that it would change perspective of people, and slowly, if one person calls somebody out, that's sort of better than what's happening at the moment. That's my personal view. But
Just like drinking, not a lot of people drink after rugby.
The speakers, thank you, Melissa and Kari, and look forward to see what unfolds with all this. I'm just obviously conscious of the fact that after, I think it's 2025, we're moving into a total ban, is it? Or was it supposed to be a smoke-free nation? No, we're not. Anyway, I'll put it all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. I'm conscious of the time, and we need someone to move that we have an extension of time. Lynn needs some Vivian for seconds. I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Motion carried. Thank you very much. And that goes on to the next one, which is on page 202 on the agenda, elected members of remuneration. 2023-24, Melissa.
thank you.
I'll move 1 and 2.
And then Lynn.
I'll move it.
Yeah, as a seconder. And Janelle Lynch seconds. Is there any discussion? Any comments?
Yeah, that is pretty.
I'll put it all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. I'm so future direction of libraries, and I was Pauline.
Should we invite Fiona and Libby up to the table?
Yeah.
But anyone who hasn't met Fiona, Fiona is our manager of our library services, and Libby is our senior librarian. They both work out of Taranui Library. So first of all, I'll just take the report as read. Our goal today is for the council to adopt the draft library strategy of future. And we've had a big workshop on it. We worked our way through it. We all know what's in it. And I think I've made it quite clear in the report that we're not asking for additional funding for the library at this stage. We have other things we want to work through, and we will be putting together a program of work for the LTP, and which will bring back to the council through the normal channels that we do for the LTP. So if there's any questions?
Any questions?
So I'd like to move to receive the report, and I recommend that we do not adopt the library strategy.
And I'll second that.
Okay. We've got a mover in a second. In discussion, let's talk about that.
Okay. I've recommended today that we do not adopt the draft library strategy for the following reasons, and I draw your attention to section 4.2. Here references are made that there was a workshop held in February 2023 where I verbalised my concerns about the mobile bus idea and did not support the mobile bus, and struggled to see how at this point in time, or at any point in time in the near future, how this council could afford to deliver those services to our communities, and that we should not make promises that we cannot keep. And then at 4.3, where the service survey went out after the workshop, I questioned the bias of that survey to find a following for the more robust idea. And at 5.5, quote, the strategy will provide council with a guiding framework for decision-making and resource allocation so we can tailor our services and programs to address community needs effectively. I question this when first steps are missing, which are vital, that stakeholders are not part of that design. 5.9 states that, quote, the first year of the strategy would be planning, but also putting in place those things which can be done with minimal or no additional funding, unquote. As opposed to this is to any initiative is that research and planning should never be minimised, as well as engagement with iwi, the public, and of course the councillors. At page 230, I do agree that that some council buildings are not fit for purpose and are perhaps too small, and that staff numbers are low, and there's a lack of professional library services for the region, and that there is a need for the agreement. There is a need for agreement about the role of a modern library and service and what they can play in wellbeing, learning, school, and development and democracy. And further on down on page 230, it seems that the writer, who I believe was a consultant, Sue, finds it important for things to look Māori, or quote, libraries reflect te ao Māori, but I cannot see how through this strategy or if Māori have ever played part of the design. I think it is particularly interesting and perhaps insulting to some that on page 231, that report states working with, quote, services, or iwi services, need to be tailored, and then goes further to burden and seek, quote, guidance sought from the executive manager of iwi relationships, unquote. The report acknowledges on page 232 that the strategy in section 3 notes a high percentage of Māori living in Ruapehu district, and there is a need to honour the Treaty of Waitangi. However, this should be amended to Te Treaty o Waitangi, and staff should know the difference. Also acknowledge that needs to be the aspirations of the community and elected members and the services that are developed with them. By page 237, quote, involve iwi in design of service and the vehicle fit out, unquote. And then by page 245, that work needs to be done to harness the thinking of Māori people. Again, I don't know when that happened. I believe that all initiatives brought to this table need to provide a strong rationale for the initiative itself, and that each project, strategy or plan must seek high-level outcomes, outputs and positive gains for our communities, and that there are agreements with individual iwi and hapu at place, and they seek critical success factors. We know that there is a strength in relationships, and strong relationships are found and needed between council, the public and iwi Māori. The strength and depth of the involvement between Māori and the public and the initiative, and of course council, is squarely aimed and designed to support the principles of rangatiratanga or self-determination, which is also in the future framework that we're working on. Māori know what's best for Māori, and they should be supported to design and implement each stage of every initiative if it is aimed at them, especially if it targets or sets out to achieve outcomes for Māori. Building effective and enduring relationships takes time, and good initiatives are based on good effectiveness and enduring relationships. Initiatives fail or are compromised at least because they do not factor in enough time to meet fully and authentic engagement with those they are looking to work with. The ultimate test, however, with initiatives like this plan or this strategy is the outcomes. However, Māori are sick of being the test, especially where relationships are weak and design is siloed and best intentions are never met for Māori. So I recommend that this council does not adopt this library strategy and Ruapehu District Council work instead on a culture audit to, 1, assess the need for additional capability and capacity to support Māori staff and therefore all staff in Ruapehu District Council. This should include engaging with Māori staff to understand the additional demands that they face, and then working with them to provide support. And RDC may well find the need for additional dedicated staff to lead tikanga and or provide expertise in te ao Māori. And 2, to assess how well all the work is aimed at improving impact changes for Māori and make it easier for iwi Māori to engage with council and its staff, to avoid duplication across initiatives and projects and business plans. So council is well placed to make informed decisions, or at least those initiatives are placed before these councillors, so that we can make high-level decisions on where to invest and where not to. And 3, a standing committee, a Māori standing committee is something I have advocated for since before I became a councillor. And I feel that still this is another reason why it needs to be established and build staff capabilities in te ao Māori. And they are resourced. And resourced to improve the way so that we can not only increase impact on Māori and engage better with them, but also publicly report on those initiatives so that there is better visibility of outcomes sought and projects made, and that there is also more effective accountability through reporting what has been spent and what has been achieved. So also that the standing committee is established to assist staff in the endeavours and requirements to engage at a high level with Māori, and that this strategy shows that the staff are not supported to manage that. Also that our future long-term plan framework should be the only framework that staff use to utilise and build strategies and business plans. And this will best and perhaps the only way be achieved if there is a Māori standing committee. For these reasons, I do not believe the draft library strategy for the Ruapehu District Council be adopted today. Kia ora.
Okay, but we had a second.
Yep, me. Who's that? We never asked for the strategy to be designed. This wasn't on our radar. Clive, when you got the person up who wrote it, we told you loud and clear it wasn't up for discussion. When you put out the second survey, we asked why, when we'd already given you direction that it was unaffordable and not necessary. There's nothing in this document that has taken our thoughts into account. You said that it did, but I went back through my workshop comments, and there's nothing in there, and it hasn't even changed. In my opinion, this has been a phenomenal waste of money, staff time, my reading actually. It was unacceptable to put the second survey out and raise community expectations, and we told you that at the time. We actually raised the issue. Even though some of them said quite plainly the current system, some of the response from the survey said that some of the responses said quite plainly the current system's fine and not to waste money. There's nothing in any of these pages that considers our comments from the workshop, and my opinion's not changed. This is wrong time, wrong place, wrong energy spent on this topic. I'm actually really disappointed that I have to come across so negatively. It's not about the staff, because the staff do a fantastic job. The library staff do a fantastic job. And I know that from experience, my grandchildren's experience. But ignoring council to this level, I lay the blame totally with you, Clive.
Okay, is there any other speakers? Oh, Vivian.
I was I would have to support what both colleagues have said. Absolutely take my hat off to the librarians and the people that work in that industry, because it is a skill in its own. There is nothing that says that we don't acknowledge that. But I do recall that we did not, as part of the workshop was to run in line so that this would fit the time frame for the long-term plan. And that in our view, when we did have the workshop, that we felt that the timing was wrong, that we needed to wait, but we did agree that the survey needed to go out, just not at this time. I mean, those were from my notes that I took. And that's my comment with regards to that. None of this is negative towards the library service, the skill and the professionalism of the staff. It's actually just to do with the timing of this survey and the strategy that we felt at the workshop, it wasn't a good time. And we all agreed, well, we agreed that that wasn't a good timing. And that's all it's about. It's about the timing of the strategy, that we didn't feel that the survey needed to go out, but the survey went out anyway. And it just brings up false expectations in our community, that we say we want to do something, what's your view, and then we don't take their view on board. And it comes back negatively on councillors. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, thank you.
I just make one little point about that though, is obviously any sort of function of council, it's good to get feedback, as to how the particular organisation's going in a particular area. So it's helpful, I'm sure, to get feedback from an operational point of view. So this is beyond that, of course, is looking, at the long-term plan and the likes. But, to be fair, there's always ongoing discussion about how we can deliver better. I'm sure that's how you think when you're sort of working behind the desk, is that, can we do things better? Do we need to change it, tweak it, whatever? So there's that level. But I guess what you're referring to is the, overall direction and how much we spend on this and that.
And the first survey did that. The first survey came out and it asked for that. Then out of that and all of the work that we hired somebody to do, came up with this strategy. And it was very clear then that we didn't think now was the time to look for things like mobile services and even extra hours, and then for it to come out in another survey. And we gave you clear direction. We asked, what's the second survey going? Because, we didn't give it the go ahead after the workshop. We don't make decisions at the workshop. It was pretty clear that we didn't think that was something that we should invest a load of time and energy. And then we get this, that point, I know Pauline is stretched to the max and works really well. So to put this much energy in this when we'd already given direction that it wasn't a good idea, it seems really, it's very disappointing.
Let me just point though, Fiona, Councillor Taylor is talking about how we need to improve how we engage with local Māori and iwi up. I think that's the point that needs to be up. We need to work towards that, make sure that
It's one of the points, yeah.
So I think in part, we could park up the long-term strategy of the function of it and how we do things. But the important part is actually, do we agree that we need to do some work alongside Māori to actually, or iwi, to actually engage better on the particular issue is a question? Or do we just do nothing? I would suggest that we continue on with these suggestions that Fiona's been talking about.
So can I add on to that? We did do a workshop about relationship engagement.
Yeah. So how are we going to deliver on that, I guess?
Well, that's where that should sit. Yeah. Again, I mean, I don't want to step on anyone's toes. That's actually not what we're saying with regards to the strategy. That's a main point, and that should be dealt with in our relationship engagement.
Regardless.
Across the board, across the whole of council, not just this. This is about we had a workshop to set the direction of where we would like to go, but it didn't go that way. If you know what I mean. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
But the relationship and engagement, that policy or that what we're talking about when we workshop that goes across the whole of the council from the top down. But this, when they're talking about the library strategy, which is why we're not approving to adopt the actual strategy, is because that's not the direction we set within the workshop. And I had to go back to my first book for this one to find. I was thinking, what did I say then?
Okay, any other speakers? Obviously, sorry.
Okay, thank you for that. I suppose I took what you said to account, and the idea was to not put any more financial budget into the strategy at this stage. So I felt that I was actually answering what the concerns were at the workshop, which was around the financial burden of the strategy. And in terms of the second survey that went out, that was always planned, and I again didn't. I was not aware that we had decided not to do that second survey, because it was just confirming and I do apologise if I missed that instruction. It was just confirming the overall thinking behind the strategy, taking on board trying to get the people of the community to think about what came out of the first survey. So it was really just going back and confirming it. But I take on board I obviously misunderstood that survey wasn't to go out. But I felt that I had actually answered your concerns by not putting any financial expectations on the strategy, and was trying to actually confirm forward thinking and the fact that we do need to change the way we do things. And I tried to make it very clear that we would try to do that within our current budgets, and just try to change the way we were responding to the community's feedback around what they would like to see in the survey, without actually increasing the financial commitment of the council towards that. And a lot of it I felt was around our thought processes and the way we think about things and the way we deliver services within our current budget. But I do believe I took on board the concerns around the financial burden, and I very deliberately didn't actually put anything in this report that would actually increase the burden. So I do apologise for misunderstanding the concerns. Fiona, I take on board everything you have said, and would like to work our way through a lot of that stuff, because it was very pertinent, and I need to understand that better. So, yeah.
Through the chair, thank you. I think what we've got to realise is that you've got people who are really proud of the services they do. They want to improve, they want to do better, and they want to reflect to the community. Except we've got to get a lot better about how we engage, and certainly we have to get those things into our strategies and policies. So I'm not taking anything away from that. But the library services across New Zealand are always looking at how can they be more relevant to the community. So this review and preparing a strategy has been in the pipeline long before that workshop. You got presented the work that had been done, and that came from advice from the professionals that we employ to give advice on it. So at the workshop, it was very loud and clear. There wasn't a mood to change, and that was clearly understood by the team, but that they still wanted, and I supported it, just to get a framework of where the future might be. And that was all that was intended in this strategy, was to say libraries can be an important part of the way we work with our communities. These are the ideas that you can do. There was no proposal that we should do any of them. They were just saying these were things that other services can provide. So I take your criticism, you're entitled to give it, but I would say that I would not want to constrain the library staff who feel really passionately about the services. They want to do more. I'm pushing back by constraining them on dollars from your instructions. So there's no extra money being even suggested in the long-term plan. But at the same time, I think if the people that advise me are saying it's important we have some future directions on libraries, then I think they should do it. So we had a lot of internal debate because, you know, obviously I reflected where some of your views came from, but I don't think anyone in this table would say that sometime in the future, whether it's 10, 20 years from now, that we won't be doing things different. And this was just trying to give that indication of the opportunities that you could do in the future. So I take your comments, and there's no need for this to be adopted today. You know, that's not an issue. But what your library staff are telling you is that they would like to do more, and we're constraining them, or the community is constraining them by the ability to pay. But they want to continue to look at how they can improve their services, and not taking away anything that Fiona's talking about with the way we engage in the journey. So I just wanted to support Pauline, you know, Libby and Fiona. There is absolutely no criticism on them, which is what you've said. They're passionate about the services they do. I support them in that passion, and I knew it would be unpopular, but I was prepared to support them, to bring it to you, and then you're entitled to say no. That's your role, but that doesn't stop the advice from coming to you with a direction.
It also doesn't stop the library staff from improving the service that they've been doing for years. It's not like we needed a gold-plated, silver-plated, or even bronze-plated library service. The staff have been, there's lots of things that the staff have done and improved on. You don't need a library strategy to do that, but this is committing us to, as Pauline said, looking for more resources in the long-term plan. And what we signalled was that this isn't a play, you can't add that to the burden of all the other things that we're trying to lay on our ratepayers at the moment, as well, and especially when we haven't got the systems right to engage with the community sufficiently, as Councillor Chase raised. So they're not, just because there isn't a piece of paper saying we're going to do this, this and this and next year, it doesn't mean to say that they haven't improved anything for the last 20 years that the library has been going on for.
Through the chair, can I just answer that, Lynn? And I think that one of the things that we have done because of this draft strategy process that we went through, and Fiona will be able to you know, tell us some of this too, is that we started thinking differently, right? Because we realised that we were behind the ball on some of the things that we were providing. And one of the things we have done is put in place the Lego Club. And that was one of the things that came out of the thinking of the strategy. So while we did a lot of thinking, there was a lot of thinking went into this, there was a lot of talking to various people, and these new fresh ideas came out of this process that we went through. There was a Lego Club, there was some technology that we are now lending out through these processes. So while I agree that we can ad hoc go ahead and change things and make things happen, having a, and I am going to advocate for the strategy and taking on board everything everybody said, without a strategy, if you don't have the ability to talk to people, you don't have the ability to go out and talk to the community, which is what we've done through the development of the strategy, confirming some of the ideas in the strategy. Whether or not we adopt the strategy, it has been incredibly helpful to myself and to our team in our thinking going forward, and understanding the fact that we really need to improve some of our processes, some of our relationships, some of the things we do. Fiona spends a lot of time out there with the schools and talking to their children, and I've watched her in action, and it's very impressive, what her storytelling and everything. So we this process has actually really helped us understand where we were missing the mark. And we really want to be able to improve what we do. Whether or not you adopt the strategy, we will certainly be continually trying to think about these issues and how we deliver our service, our library services to our communities, and how we can improve within current budgets.
Okay, all right, let's try and sum this up. And I just wonder whether or not, when I think move, or is it Fiona moved and second, would you be comfortable just receiving it?
Yeah, that's what we
It
said.
was received.
Yeah, okay. And that'll sort of deal with it, I think. So, can mover and second it?
Through the chair, we've had mover and seconder that we received the report and we do not adopt the draft.
Yeah, I was gonna, that's the second part, I was just gonna suggest the first part.
No, I think we have to
No.
move and second both.
The both of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop the staff from improving and but
I
it's
just
just.
think that the number two is sort of means that we
I'm
won't
not
adopt it
adopting
even. I just sort of wondered whether we just receive it and that leaves it open for future.
No, we're not adopting it. Not at this time. Like I said, wrong time, wrong place, wrong energy.
How do you feel about that? Because you moved it.
Yeah,
You were not adopted.
you know.
Okay,
Great.
oh, that's fine.
Happy
Do
with
you have
that?
speakers? No? Write a reply? I'll put that on paper, say aye. Something carries. Okay, that direction, and now we get to, here we go,
Next one,
time.
because it's retrospective.
Oh, but yeah.
And that will lunch, is there a lunch?
Can I do the retrospective? What,
Oh, it's retrospective, both retrospective, but I'd just like to congratulate, I'm just trying to find that.
Well, thank you.
Harry.
And the librarian, sorry to
Harry.
interrupt. Thank you, Fiona, thank you, Libby. Sorry.
I'd like to congratulate Kari for writing this and the second one, and noted that the staff actually met with MF that in the Clive's report, you met with them to discuss some of these issues. And obviously get our point across. And I'd also like to thank Melissa for taking all of my emails randomly as they came to mind.
Okay, that introduces the subject, so would you like to talk to it?
Well, thank you very much for that feedback and the feedback that we received through the when we put out the submissions for your feedback. I'd like to take the report as read, and if there are any questions or comments.
No, Lynn moved it and I seconded it, 1 and 2. But I just wanted to reiterate what Lynn said is thank you first and foremost, although it is retrospective, that we did have the opportunity to voice our views and that you've actually covered that very, very well.
I'm more interested in the teeth that local government have in terms of restricting tree growing, and particularly rural valuable land that's not marginal. Really heads up on what that has happened in recent times since this has sort of been discussed at this level.
Martin by the fence.
Sure, I wish I had read that, and it was exactly about what I read about that, but they are asking about the forest management plans and where that responsibility should sit and how much, and I did cover that in the review, I believe, of the ETS rather than the redesigned permanent forestry category. So this is
Number 6, you did do that.
we are doing the review, yes. So they are looking at where that responsibility and voice should come from at local government or regional level as part of a management plan.
Is that a regional plan or a local district plan?
Horizons Regional Council, isn't it?
They are taking feedback on this. So this is really trying to gather feedback before any decisions are made. I believe this will become, there'll be another chance to submit on at that level, but they were really asking for feedback about what we wanted. and what kind of voice we would want, which we have strongly.
Add into that one.
Yes,
Sorry. So yeah, it was. I think in the CE report, it's actually my blurb there. I met with MFE as well to talk specifically about the NESPF, which is the National Environmental Standard for Plantation Forestry. And that's where they, MFE, are looking to put in or decide what sort of local authority tools we can expand on to give effect to some of those controls. We don't know exactly what those controls would look like. We definitely voiced our views on that, myself and Richard, senior planner. So we're still working through what that looks like. And then those are then also going to be transitioned into the NBEA, which is under the National Planning Framework as well. So that's where that work is at.
I actually drove a road, rural road in New Plymouth the other day, and they'd harvested on this side of the hill. It was a pretty narrow road, and the Waitara River was on the bottom, and you could see that slash was going to come over and drop. So I talked to the roading people, and it was Stratford, and they were really interested and would go out. We're going to go out and have a look at it, because the potential damage to the road, let alone the infrastructure for the river, was and then downstream at Waitara was obvious, and you can't allow that to happen. So those rules around plantation harvest, if they're going to harvest, to make sure there's funds and there's a proper plan, is really important for the harvesting, let alone the ETS.
So what's the next process, the timeframe for submissions to be heard, or is it just a feedback from this? Or?
Through the chair, the next step will be that the incoming government will be making a decision on the redesign, both the redesign of the permanent forestry category and the review of the emissions trading scheme. And we would expect that they would be coming back out again for submissions on any decisions. This isn't actually affecting the plans or pricings at this stage. It was very much looking for feedback from communities.
Watch this space.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, someone like
You, Councillor Mason moved and Deputy Mayor Wood.
Okay. No further discussion. Can I put it all in favour? Say aye.
Aye.
Carry. Thank you very much.
Do you want to do the next?
The next one.
What was that?
It's 1 and 2. We did do 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I thought you meant, sorry.
No,
Apologies, I thought you meant resolutions.
Oh, okay. I didn't even read the resolutions, except in confusing me.
So we on item number 17, or do you want to drop, stop for lunch?
I think you discussed both of them.
Yeah, do we do the whole lot?
So yours is electoral?
Yes, yes, yeah. Through the chat, I'm joined by Gavin. Thank you. Online, so.
Oh, thank you very much.
I saw Gavin online. Was Gavin online?
Yes.
He did pop up and disappear again. Yeah, they came to talk to us.
Have I sent you? Tēnā tātou e te whānau tātou katoa. I'm here with my alternative hat on as Deputy Electoral Officer, and I have asked Cameron Beattie, who has peer reviewed the report and was also present at or delivered the workshop, to be online to answer the Q&A questions.
There he is.
Kia ora, Gavin. Before we go into it, what I would like to do is just draw members' attention to the fact that the local government electoral legislation bill is still in the House. Debate commenced at 9 o'clock this morning, and this bill is 6th on the list. A couple of the water ones are going through first. So we should, I think they're going through to late tonight, which means we should have some form of indications to the timeframes, because the timeframes impact dates for polls and so on. So we will have adequate time to correct any, or to make sure that any public notification that's required has the right dates. Other than that, I will take the report as read and happy to answer any simple questions. Curly questions can go to Gavin.
Does Gavin want to comment in advance or you hear us? Welcome, Gavin.
Yeah, thank you.
Like-
I've got no comment to make at this stage, thank you.
Okay.
I was just going to ask that question, that it's in Parliament at the moment, so what impact would it have? I was just going to ask you the same question.
So it's really just bringing the dates forward. So the date by which a poll has to be demanded by the public, or in fact, if chooses to hold a poll, that date would change from, I think it's February and come forward to December off the top of my head.
Yes, that's correct. It needn't affect your substantive decision today. It's really a question of just when you give the required public notice, what the date, the closing date for a demand for a poll is. So it needn't affect your substantive debate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janelle, I think was first.
Oh, I was going to just move that we received the report and confirm STB voting is our preferred electoral voting system.
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
Before it's moved and seconded, just to follow that, is that all right? The question was, what will, if the government chose to reduce the voting age to 16, how would that impact the STV vote potentially?
Yeah, an interesting question. I haven't thought specifically about that. I mean, it's I, as you probably know, I'm a serious supporter of STV, and I think it does take quite a lot of understanding and education about it. But the potential to enhance the youth vote is there already, and I think that could enhance it further. That with the idea of a quota of to be elected, and both candidates and voters understanding that, potentially it could have quite a dramatic effect. But that's the same with any particular constituency. As I say, I'm a supporter of it, and I think it's about understanding it. But certainly some interesting considerations.
Can I, sorry, while I've got you, while you're there, Gavin, is there a way to have better communication? Because it's quite confusing, and it's confusing. First past the post, everyone knows, yeah, tick, you're in.
Yes.
The STV system becomes confusing when you drop to each iteration. Is there a better way to explain that to people? Because it's quite confusing.
Oh, certainly, there's no question. It is more confusing than FPP, and I just see it as a direct comparison with FPP being simple and easy to understand, STV being the opposite of that, but getting better outcomes, and that ultimately is the trade-off. And so there is, to me, endless scope to improve the communications and education about it, possibly with the Future for Local Government report and its recommendation that STV be used by all councils, there may be some potential for the government or the new government, which whatever, to actually get behind, to consider that and get behind it. And if that was to be the case, I think there certainly is scope for nationwide education information programs about it. But that's, you know, in the hands of you know who in the future.
Oh, that'll roll on to the second question I had. You've already answered that, was why are there so lower numbers of STV councils compared to the FFP?
Yes, well, I think that comes down to it's just the way that STV was introduced right at the this was going back to the Helen Clark government. It was part of the coalition agreement at the time that it be introduced as an option for councils. So it was left for councils to understand. There was a little bit of information at the time in a task force, but since then it's been left to individual councils to get to grips with it, and then to understand it, and then to promote it, or at least to educate their communities. And so at no time has there been national information or education programs about it. And I think that's reflected in the fact that only 15 councils have adopted. It's been left to their initiative to pick it up and run with, and that's the disappointing thing. That's quite in contrast to the change to MMP or parliamentary elections. That was the subject of nationwide information and education, and that's the contrast. It's been left to individual councils, STV.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Yes, please. I would like to know. Yeah, stay at STV. Gavin, thank you very much for attending, and thank you for the wonderful, very informative workshop that you hosted with council. I asked you the same question at our workshop, but I'm going to ask you again for the public. Which is the fairer system, STV or FTV?
Well, I am biased, as you understand, but certainly I believe STV certainly is, on the basis that it does enable a much wider reflection of community preferences to be expressed, and because votes are transferred or transferable from candidate to candidate, and so the votes for unsuccessful candidates are transferred to voters' next preferences, and so those votes are not wasted, in inverted commas, by staying with unsuccessful candidates. And similarly with the successful candidates, you only need the quota in order to be elected, and so that the surplus can then be transferred to other candidates as well. And so on that basis, the views, the preferences of a much wider range of voters can be expressed through the transfer of votes.
Thank you very much. And also, I would just like to say that there is a lot of confusion about the way STV works. And I like the suggestion in here that potentially, if legislative change is made, that they'll recommend changing the name to something more like ranked choice voting. And I did note that in the when we did change to STV, it didn't minimise the voters. In fact, there were more voters once we went to STV, so that's good.
I'll second there.
Thanks, mate.
Can we put that down to the voting change, or maybe more people just wanting to vote? So that wasn't actually put in there by that little increase in the number of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't actually say that it was STV that actually.
Oh, no, I didn't say that it was STV that did it. I'm saying that it didn't negatively impact it.
So
yes, I think that's the basis, really, that for people who may argue it's more complicated and that will have a negative impact on turnout, that has not proved to be the case in Ruapehu and some other councils. And so STV hasn't had a significant impact, positive or negative, on voter turnout, is the point.
So you've moved 1 and 2A.
Yes.
Discussion, questions? One little point about our district, and that it's complicated somewhat by Horizons Regional Council, who are in the same package for voters or potential voters to actually look at. I guess they'll be debating that as well at the council. I guess it's be better if it's all either one system for all, because I think that it's complicated, people confuse people and stuff. So from memory, last time it was a split vote. So
We could just not run with them.
if there's no further discussion on this, I'll put it all in favor and say aye.
Aye.
To carry. Do we adjourn for lunch?
We can now.
Thanks,
Kevin.
We'll be back here at 1:15.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
Half an hour, is that okay? Yeah. Okay, lunch break.